Very good. I came up with a new show idea, Lubie. And it's going to be a show entitled Loan Shark Tank, where we have like 5 loan sharks on one side, and the people come in, these bust out degenerate gamblers come in, and they try to negotiate better terms on some kind of a loan and also secure the loan, even though their reputations may not match up with what would be considered spot on credit. And then you got some guy coming in there going, hey, listen, I'm looking for $600 at 2 points a week. I'm telling you, I'm going to pay you back. I know my reputation is not necessarily exemplary. And, then the loan sharks start picking them apart. It's like, well, what are you talking about, Johnny? 2 points a week. That's laughable. It's 7 points a week just to talk to me. What do you think?
I think it would be classic.
And you get the music going. The guy comes out. He's clearly in need of the money. And they get that dun, 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 dun. And you got some guy that looks like Vito. He's Mr. Wonderful's chair, and Mr. Wonderful's chair, and he's just looking at the guy like, what a watermelon.
I was gonna say you have to have at least one of the people or behind them, enforcers, at least either behind them or off to the side
with that face, that the enforcer always has. Like, let me at him. How about a little taste of pain?
The beginning of every episode, it's a guy that fucking didn't pay last week. So they have to send a message. Shit beat out of him, He's in some trash can peeling himself out. Man, here's last week's deadbeat. What do you think? Did I get some money to produce this thing? Is somebody going to steal the idea? I was afraid to unveil it here on the show because I thought it was brilliant. I think it's funny.
Loan Shark Tank.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
All right, pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Monday edition, a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday edition of the Defo Show. That's Mike Lubie Lubitz. We had a little technical problem there at the start. It does seem like the gremlins really creep into your computer, Lubie, over the weekend.
This wasn't me at all. This was the software updated, so the old link to get in was erased. So we had to start fresh and anew here on this Monday.
Which, of course, I couldn't figure out on my end for a long period of time. I'm looking, when do I want to put this on Facebook? I don't know. What the fuck? But anyway, good to be with you. And it was a terrific weekend all the way around. Well-rounded weekend of sporting action coming off the Olympics where you had shit going on every day. How great was that, right? Wake up at 5 in the morning, as we sometimes do. We'll be going, oh, man, I could have slept another couple of hours.
Honestly.
Doesn't that suck? Yeah.
Yes, it does.
I mean, it's been happening. It's a byproduct of doing morning drive radio. I think even after you're out of it for a long period of time, and now we've been getting up early to do this stuff, and you have to question that at times. I mean, why don't we do this at 3 in the afternoon? It'd be just as effective, I guess. Although there are new things on the horizon, which is good. There's always you always have to have hope, don't you, Louie?
100%.
Like maybe these guys can figure it out. Which is great. So we'll see what happens with that. Big conversations taking place to maybe expand the platform here a little bit, which what does it seem like? It seems like 20,000 subscribers is a magic number. Is it not, Libby?
A nice number.
You have 20,000 subscribers and they're regular visitors to your site or whatever it is. It seems like you're in the game, doesn't it? I mean, we really haven't pushed that. So, the effort is now going to be made in that direction, and we shall see if it's effective. If it isn't, what? Uber Eats? I will be delivering pizzas in a short period of time. So if I show up at your door, please tip generously, and don't tell me it's on the card, because I know it's not. Is that true? Do you feel weird? I mean, now Mustang, when we take an Uber, she always tips on the card, right? Okay. I used to always give the guy cash, like before we even got going, so that he would drive, with a certain amount of responsibility, as opposed to thinking these cheap fucks in the back are going to stiff me. You know how that goes, Libby.
100%.
Yeah. Anyway, good to be with you. Now, you were going to, and I don't know if this gave you a little extra time because you were probably frantically trying to figure out what the fuck was going on, but to do the Mike Lubie Lubitz, and I don't know that we ever officially unveiled this. I think we might have like touched on it for part of one season and then bailed out on it. One of those bits that you did like on Monday, but you never did it again because you forgot all about it, which was Mike Lubie Lubitz's Miami Dolphins Training Camp Chronicles.
Yeah, I don't have any.
Did we do that? I mean, didn't we do that one year? I don't know.
No, you want me
Training Camp Chronicles, yes.
I have nothing to add.
I was trying to convince the program director to dispatch you out to Dolphins training camp every day to come back with nothing. Because that's pretty much, what you were going to come back with. Nothing.
Exactly.
I don't know what to make of it. I mean, now we watched this game. I did, and there were many things going on over the weekend. We had some betting action going on.
Yes, sir.
I managed to make it to 3-0 on the Bury Your Bookie with baseball picks.
Nice.
Behind a great Paul Skeens, who bounced back from that loss as we anticipated. And tonight, Lubie, I don't know, is this going to the well once too often? Tonight, I'm pressed for a pick here. I'm going to, go ahead and fly this thing, the Bury Your Bookie solo, just kind of recapping stuff that happened. We gave out Billy Horschel to win the golf tournament. He didn't win it, but he did finish 10th, tied for 10th.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and is there not an implied hedge off? Here you go. Like Hank Goldberg. Well, I gave out 5 losers on ESPN, but I won money. Like, what, Hank? I mean, you bury your adoring public on TV, and then you're going to tell me you won money with other picks? Get the fuck out of here. At least back your own plays, no?
100%.
No, weird. Like you see the handicapper from the newspaper, and he's told you his best bet of the day is the 3-ball in the 7th race. And then you happen to be at the window while he's betting the 7th race, and he's all in on the 5. And you're like,
thanks, man.
You don't even bet your own picks, you fucking prick.
An asshole.
Yeah. So I don't know. Are we going to the well once too often with this Trevor Rogers thing? He's pitching for the Orioles tonight against the Mets.
Anti-Rogers again.
The Mets are hovering. They're hovering around, the wild card there. They suffered a loss yesterday to the Marlins of all teams. And do you go in with the Mets tonight just figuring that Trevor Rogers gets shelled again? The Mets actually have a guy, Peterson, going that's having a good year record-wise in ERA. From an ERA standpoint, he's like 7-1 with a 3.04 earned run average, going against a mighty Baltimore lineup that is now in a dead heat with the Yankees after the Yankees blew this game last night to the Detroit Tigers, which was kind of cool. Did you see any of this, Lubie? I dug this. I don't know what happened. My whole perspective on the Little League World Series being televised has changed 180 degrees, Lubie. I don't know if this is because I'm a grandfather now. But did you not think it was the exploitation of children by ESPN to the point where, they could have been brought up on charges of pedophilia? Oh, really? I mean, what kind of garbage is this? You don't have to pay these guys nothing. You got a free television show, basically, and people are tuning in, and you got sponsors, man. Cheerios, all of this stuff, right? They all want to sell to the kids.
Yep.
Now, are kids tuning into this, or is it just a bunch of old geezers like me that are thinking back to their Little League days and thinking, yeah, I would have loved to have lined one in the gap there and tried to stretch it into a triple as it curled around the right center field wall? What do you think?
I feel it's a little bit of both. I'm not going to lie. When I was younger, I definitely would watch it because I didn't know how it worked out, but it's almost impossible to get there. But I always thought it was cool that all these kids were able to like play other teams around the country.
Oh, yeah.
TV. As an adult, I watched it too. I mean, I haven't watched it in years now, but when I remember being in college, I would watch it all the time. But yeah, I mean, we all like live our dreams of the youth. But yeah, you're not wrong. It is exploitative. They don't make a sense.
The fuck, yeah. I don't know. I mean, are they on name, image, and likeness deals with Little League teams? You would have to imagine that.
I don't.
Corruption is massive when it comes to Little League baseball, as it always was. It was great. I mean, I don't think I ever played in a Little League game. I've said this many times. That wasn't under protest. a meaningless, useless, absolutely words to the wind protest that was never going to be honored under any circumstances. I mean, and every game, that's it. This game's under protest, right? Because little Johnny showed up, unshaven, and it turned out he was 17. He's pitching, as the coach's son. He's pitching, he's striking every little kid out. They all go, back to the dugout crying.
It's classic.
Uh, yeah, I don't know, but now I mean, this thing was great yesterday, Louis, with the Yankees and the Tigers playing that game. They have the annual game, I guess. I don't know how long this has been going on. I think for some time now, right? Where they play one major league game in Williamsport.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That's actually
Yeah, I mean, they're not playing in the Little League field, obviously. There's some like minor league stadium or something that the dimensions are at least comparable to major league stadiums. And they got all these kids from all these Little League teams there filling the stands, and they're like, they're skateboarding with Aaron Judge. They're hanging out with Juan Soto. Garrett Cole is, actually being friendly to people and signing autographs. Giancarlo Stanton. Was he Mike? Yeah. I don't know. He's Giancarlo again, right? Giancarlo Stanton. You don't see enough of them to know his name. That's the beauty of it. $300 million. That was the one good thing in a fire sale that the Marlins unloaded, unfortunately. Giancarlo Stanton, who looked like he was going to be brilliant, but was also, I don't know, are you sensing any juice there, Lubie? Seems pretty fragile, this guy.
He's definitely fragile. I don't know what it speaks to the juice aspects, yay or nay, but he's definitely been fragile his whole career. I mean,
handle with care, yeah.
Now.
Anyway, so that was great. I mean, so now that was part of the weekend. I couldn't have enjoyed it anymore. The Tigers game last night, Yankees blew it. They had Holmes on the mound, bottom of the ninth inning, up 1-0. He gives up a couple of opposite field hits, won a double. The following single brought home the run. Play at the plate was a little funky. As I don't know, the Yankees playing guys that they just brought up from Single A. Also, what happened to them? They had a guy in left field I never heard of it, and they're wearing clown numbers too now. They had like guys in the lineup with number 89. Thinking, is that George Kittle's? I don't know. What fucking game am I watching here? And this guy was like number 95 or something. Cabrera, I believe it was. What was the left fielder's name? Anyway, he double clutches. He doesn't realize. I mean, single to left field. The guy's on second base. And he just like double clutches and throws the ball home, and the Tigers get the winning run. So that probably upset a lot of Yankee fans. That also makes our game stand out a little bit more. Now, the Orioles going to be especially hungry against the Mets. Dead heat for first place, AL East.
Yes, I think the Orioles aren't throwing these Rogers games away. Rogers showed a lot of promise early in his career. He
sucks though. No.
Find it.
I mean, he just sucks.
So the Orioles, I think, are trying. But if they keep throwing Rogers out there, I would bet against them every time.
Are we going in the well once too often, though, Libby? Is that like a thing that we should consider in gambling?
At some point, it's going to end. I just until it beats you.
We thought we were late to the party with Skeens. First bet on Skeens this year.
Yeah,
it was Friday. He goes 6 innings of like 3-hit ball, and the Pirates prevail. A friend of mine went big heavy on the under in that game. But when a guy asks you, are you a big bettor? Or he kind of says, I don't know if you're a big bettor or not. What kind of bettor is he? What do you think? Like they're assuming that I'm sending in like 10 grand a game. These people for some reason.
They're probably not a huge. They're probably middle of the road because
I'm assuming that they're putting up bets that I can't even fathom making.
I don't know. If they're saying it like if they're asking like that, they probably bet more than we do because we actually don't. You don't bet.
Come on, I mean, look, I'm betting. If I'm betting $20 a game, I'm like shaking the entire time.
Betting more than that, but they're probably not like Greek. Greek will put like thousands of dollars on games and not like.
All relative to how much money you have, that has to be taken into consideration.
Well, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you got $3 grand in the bank and that's all you got,
you're putting in,
and you're betting 2,500 on the Packers last night.
Yes, that's very.
You're probably pretty depressed today, no?
Exactly.
What ugliness, right? Weren't they the ones that were playing the Broncos?
Yep.
Yeah, that was ugly
last night. Yeah.
My God, I hope nobody had the Packers in our run. All right, so Training Camp Chronicles, Lubie.
Yes. Sure.
What are we seeing? I mean, Tua goes out there. I noticed no response. You were underwhelmed by Tua's performance. 5 for 5.
It was great.
He throws a strike of a short pass to start the game, a little 9-yard dart, the kind of thing that we've seen him do. Scrambles his way and makes a Mahomes like almost sidearm Kent Tekulve throw.
Yep.
To salvage a play and turned into a very positive play that looked like it was going nowhere. Fires an unbelievable strike. I mean, that ball couldn't have been any more on the money. The touchdown pass to River Craycraft.
That was a great pass.
Great pass. My God. So what are we looking at, Lubie? I just was reading guys'
He plays
predictions
again.
over under totals for every team of the year on CBS Sportsline. He has the Dolphins under 9.5
I love it.
at 9-8.
That's what do you mean? Perk thinks their ceiling's 10. I look again to me.
What are we looking at? What are we missing, Lubie?
People don't understand it's the injuries, which again that doesn't make it better because they've had the injuries every year. Like Scoop said last week when we had him on, like with both the Heat and the Dolphins, if the injuries happen every year at some point, isn't it them?
Yeah.
Yes, it feels sort of like that, yes. But it's injuries because when they were healthy, they were the number one team in fucking football. Like the last month of the year, they didn't have their offensive line or defensive line, and you suddenly saw them playing shitty football. That was revolving around their lines. Look,
who has an explosive offense, especially in the AFC East?
in the East?
I mean, we don't know if Buffalo is going to be explosive. I don't know that they were, even with. I mean, at times they were with Stephon Diggs.
Jets are weird because they
Jets we have no clue about, right?
have a lot of talent. I just don't. I know they retooled the offensive line. And that should be what they need to get off. Brees Hall will be healthy this year, motivated. You know, Garrett Wilson, the great receiver. I think they went and signed that. They brought in someone. I have to look him back. I know they brought in receivers. Like they should be a pretty good team. I just don't trust Rodgers' health. I don't know how long that line's going to hold up. There's a lot of questions to me with that team, but the offense should be really good. They have a lot of talent on that team.
What happens when the mushrooms kick in?
The ayahuasca.
You don't think there's some aftermath of doing all of these psychedelic drugs that this guy is on? I mean, look what happened to Timothy Leary. Eventually, you melt down.
Exactly.
He might not be on Leary's level. All right, we're going to come back. Speaking of Leary, I mean, we're never leery about bringing this guy on. Chris Perkins, the preeminent Dolphin columnist for the Sun Sentinel, which is all over the Miami Dolphins. I don't know why. I mean, I'm more optimistic than I usually am. I don't know that they win the Super Bowl. I'm not saying that I would go that far. Seem to be just missing something. But and maybe it's defensively. But so far in these preseason games, if you were going to do the Lubie Training Camp Chronicles, you would have to say that these backup defenders that they've been playing are actually making a pretty good account of themselves. No?
Yes.
And they haven't given up a lot of points. Look pretty aggressive. So, I mean, if that's the backups, maybe there's reason to hope that the starting lineup isn't that bad.
I think if their starters are in, they're going to be a really good team. I just think it's health. For them, it's all health. Look, the AFC has a logjam of teams. The Chargers should be even better this year. The Chiefs, back-to-back defending champions. The Bengals will get Burrow back, and he'll be hungry. The Steelers now add Wilson and Fields, who should be better than what they had at quarterback last year. Whatever it is, that should be better than what they had. The Ravens were challenging all season. The Browns have a very interesting team, and Watson's now a few years removed from injuries and issues. Maybe he shows signs. The Texans won a playoff game like the Jazz. There's a lots of teams in the AFC, so I get from that perspective, sort of forgetting about the Dolphins. Most of them outside of the Chiefs don't have any more talent than the Dolphins. The Dolphins actually are fucking loaded talent-wise.
Yeah.
It's Kim McDaniel not getting in his own way, which, as we know, can be his issue. Short yardage, he struggles, and he struggled again in the preseason with short yardage. They found a way to get that score, but the rest of the game, and I get it, their quarterbacks are fucking an abomination, but holy shit.
Yeah.
They had the ball inside the 20 like 3 times, and they couldn't get anything.
I mean, if it revolves around playing these backup quarterbacks, they're in a pile of shit.
So,
all right, Chris Perkins scheduled to join us, right? We're going to get to Perk, so
Yes,
we're going to do that. Chris Perkins, we'll get a real perspective on this thing from a guy who's in the know when it comes to the Miami Dolphins, and maybe a little bit about the rest of the NFL as we're a couple of weeks away from the regular season getting underway. Chris Perkins joins us next. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:33.
Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Hi, guys. If I could squeeze in two. One is just, can you say with certainty that Jimmy Garoppolo will be on the roster on Sunday?
I can't guarantee that anybody in the world will be alive Sunday, so I can't guarantee who will be on our roster on Sunday. So that goes for all of us.
From South Florida to the entire world, thank you to the iHeartRadio app. Here is Defo joined by Lubie on The Defo Show.
All right, Lubie lifting another clip from a J.D. Vance press conference there. I don't know what's going on. All right, welcome back to the show. Do we have him on video? Is he making an appearance here? No, telephone only. Chris Perkins is going to join us here on the show, probably on his way out to the Dolphins facility to get the latest. We welcome him from the Sun Sentinel, the Dolphins columnist. The great Chris Perkins joins us here on a audio performance only. Chris, how are you, my friend?
Gentlemen, I'm doing good. I'm sitting here rewatching the Dolphins game. I've already written a column this morning. They pushed practice back to 12:45, and actually they're not having practice today. Maybe it's because people are so injured, but they're going to bring some players up to the podium, and we will talk to them. So, yeah, getting an early start on an altered game plan here.
Very nice. All right. And this is a kind of scrambling Tarkenton-esque that you have to do when you are the preeminent columnist. And you know, on a day where there's really probably nothing to write about. Yeah, you know, I mean, Lubie and I were just saying this before you came on, and I'm surprised. And he alluded to the fact that you saw 10 wins possibly as a ceiling for this team. I don't know if it's a fair assumption to go ahead and give them the 2 wins against the Patriots, but I mean the Patriots are really bad or appear to be, and you know you never know what's going to happen. You never know what condition the team's going to show up in. But seems to me, I mean, I'm reading some very pessimistic accounts for a team that supposedly has not only an explosive offense, an offensive core, but has 3 guys that are really happy that they're that core in Tua, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle, who all got the money. So there's no acrimony there. It's let's go get them, guys. Win one for the Kipper. What do you make of it, Chris? I mean, is there just so far, I mean, in your opinion, a low ceiling for what appears to be, I think, the team to bet to win the AFC East?
I've got them with 10 wins. I just did my season prediction just like maybe 20 minutes ago, as a matter of fact, and I have them at 10-7. But I don't think that 10 should be their ceiling. I think that's realistically what they'll come in at. I mean, I think, look, with this roster, the ceiling should be like 12, right? Yeah. And the floor should be like 8. Yep. But look, to me, it's all about, are you going to win a playoff game? I love that Steve Ross said they should be Super Bowl contenders if they stay healthy. Yep. Me and Dave Hyde and David Peronas were just debating this on my podcast, Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk, sunsentinel.com.
Off the deep end? What was that?
The deep dive.
Deep dive. We always hated when they did deep dives on our show. They didn't get too far before they found something wrong. Yeah.
But you know what? I think that what we have right now is a younger Dolphins fan base that is more concerned with being entertained than win. And to me, there's just like so much satisfaction when the Dolphins fans, especially the younger fans, talk about the number 1 offense and Tua led the league in passing yards and Tua led the league in passer rating. And I'm just like, well, but where are the playoff wins? Oh, the Dolphins are great on social media. Oh, I love Tyreek.
It's always a tough comeback, yeah.
On TikTok, and I think the fans are so complacent and happy with this team that Mike McDaniel is a funny coach and his press conferences are funny. And I'm just looking at them like, okay, you all got these contract extensions. Where are the playoff wins? Like that, isn't that how you measure success? But I do really think that there's a younger generation and a sports fan in general. I'm not just saying Dolphins fans, that they want to be entertained more than they demand victories, playoff wins from their team. And look, the Dolphins are maybe the most entertaining team in the NFL, right? I mean, the fun touchdown celebrations and all that. But I'm very old school and hardcore. I want to see playoff wins. I'm glad Steve Ross said that.
Well, the thing, and it's clearly, look, they have issues in December, January. They weather, whatever it is. To me, it's right about when the offensive and defensive line gets hurt. Like the offensive line, by the time we got to late December last year, was, I think, missing 3 or 4 starters. By the time we played the Chiefs, and I say I'm a Dolphins. By the time they played the Chiefs, I think they were down 4 starters, if not all 5, from the beginning of the season, because Connor Williams wasn't even there as a center. So I don't know if they had any of their starters starting healthy, at least. I mean, maybe Armstead might have gutted it out, but he was not himself. Armstead was a sieve of himself by the end of the season. And their defensive line, they were missing their top 3 pass rushers. Van Gien got hurt in the game. They didn't have Chubb, and they didn't have Phillips. So to me, it's easy to say they're just not winning. Yeah, when you don't have your offensive defensive line back-to-back years, it's hard to win those games. Now, the question can remain, if it's every year that they're hurt at these positions, is it just them? And that's my thing. And I like that, even though I don't always agree with Stephen Ross these days, that is exactly how I feel. I think the roster, if you go player for player, yeah, they lost Wilkins, but they, outside of the defensive line, they really recovered with all of their losses, and their roster's as talented as any roster. If you look at point blank talent, the problem is they don't stay healthy, and that is now a yearly trend. And I don't know if they can just magically overcome that this season.
Yeah, I hear you, Lubie. Look, I think that the injury thing is real, but I also think it's kind of a made-up boogeyman. And here's why. Because I keep going to this, that over the 2-year period, they're 3-12 against playoff teams.
Yeah,
that's not, if you're, 8-7 or 7-8, okay, injuries are a factor. 3-12, and again, I keep saying this: the perfect metaphor for the Mike McDaniel era is that 2-week period when they beat Denver 70-20, and the next week they go to Buffalo with Tua, with everybody healthy, and you get blasted 48-20. Now, Connor Williams, Liam Eichenberg started that game at center because Connor got hurt against Denver, but and all anybody remembers is the 70-20. Oh, they scored 70 points. It's like, but the next week you went on the road against a good team and got blasted, and this great offense didn't show up. They scored 2 touchdowns. And to me, that's the problem with this team, is that you can make whatever excuse you want about injuries and cold weather, and Tua was injured, and the offensive line, they don't show up against the good teams. And by the way, the offensive line last year, your team gave up 31 sacks, tied for 4th fewest, and you rushed for 135 yards a game, 6th best. So the offensive line can't be that bad.
No, the line was actually pretty good until it got hurt.
Chris Perkins, wow. I mean, talk about a little shade going on. My opinion that the Dolphins are going to easily dissect the AFC East.
Well,
go on to a conference championship possibly, and maybe even make it to the. I don't know that they're a Super Bowl team. I mean, Lubie rattled off like 10 teams in the AFC that you could look at and say, okay, they probably have as much of a shot, if not more, than the Miami Dolphins do. What about? I mean, what are you seeing in McDaniel? First of all, do you speak McDaniel at this point? I mean, it's like they say about this whole immigration problem. Well, they should at least learn English. I mean, I know that that's very racist to say, but and God forbid I should move to another country, which I'm thinking about now. As becomes more and more as the homeowners association fees skyrocket. I'm thinking about that beach house in Santo Domingo somewhere, but. But anyway, I mean, the language of McDaniel, it sounds great. I don't know. I mean, do you know what he's saying, first of all? And second of all, I mean, almost everybody is saying, I mean, the narrative would be about him that this is it, man. I mean, either, as Lubie alluded to, some strange calls and short yardage situations, almost the anti-Tony Sperano, as he abdicates the possibility of kicking field goals almost as a matter of routine, shrugs it off. 4th and 7, no problem, I'll go for it. Which is fine. I mean, you like a daredevil in a coach, but what do we make of this guy? Where's he at right now, in your opinion? And is this somewhat of an Ed Ogeron situation where his fanny might be feeling a little bit of heat if it doesn't go well?
You know what? It's an interesting thing, Defo and Lubie, because I think that Mike McDaniel is kind of like the team, that he's got to do better, right? You've got all this talent and you've got this tremendously creative offense, but just like your team, you don't show up in the big games.
Yeah.
It's last year against playoff teams, they were 1-6. They averaged 16 points per game. I mean, that can't happen. 20 points at Buffalo, 19 points at Kansas City. 14 points in Germany, right? A 21-14 game.
Yeah.
17 points in Philly, maybe. I mean, you can't do this. And so I am encouraged by what I see of Mike McDaniel this off season, because I've always said this team needs to play more big boy football and be more physical. And by being more physical, the Jordan Poyer thing about smashing the Dolphins is, hitting them in the mouth and they tend to fold. I've been writing that for like weeks, months before Jordan Poyer said that this team is not tough. And by toughness, I don't mean, deliver a big hit on defense and stand over somebody. I mean, on 3rd and 1, we're running it down your throat. 3rd and 2, we're running it down your throat. 3rd and 4, we're running it down your throat. That's tough. That's physical. That's aggressive. It's something that you wear the whole game, not just in the fourth quarter or on short yardage. And I'm starting to see stuff like that he's making some big boy calls, especially in the red zone. We're going to run the ball. We're going to throw to the tight end. We're going to play a more physical, aggressive style. And that's something that holds up at home, on the road, good teams, bad teams, cold weather, hot weather. I like what I'm seeing from Mike McDaniel this season. So far, in this training camp, I should say. I really like it.
Well, look, and there's always talk of growth and maturing, and not only as players, but as a coach. He's still a young dude. Is he even 40 yet? It scares me to know his age. He is in only year 3. This is year 3 for the system. They have a new defensive coordinator. It's funny because Fangio, you would think, would have brought toughness, but there was such a disconnect with the players and that was it. Look, the game everyone points to, as bad as the offense was versus Tennessee, they also didn't get stops at the end of the game as well. Like, that's something this defense, as talented as it is, struggled at times, especially late in the year, to get that key stop, to give your offense the confidence to end the game, or get the key stop to just end the game. That's what the two things I'm curious about is, can Weaver, because it feels like the defense is rallying around him in a way that they never did for Fangio, and also just Tua. All I'm hearing, and I've always been a big Tua supporter, but all I'm hearing is like he's taken on more of a leadership role. He is more vocal. He seems more confident than ever. He seems more comfortable than ever. And again, it is year 3 for him, the McDaniel system, and he got paid. And for some people, getting paid is ruination. Some people getting paid is that motivation that, look, the team does believe in me, which, again, we've known was his issue with this team early on. Flores did not hide his lack of confidence in him, and McDaniels slowly built it back up. Like, the two of them, both Anthony Weaver for the defense and Tua this year, it feels like they could maybe be difference makers in a way that the Dolphins just didn't have at the end of last season.
Yeah, Lubie, that's good observations. You could be right. Here's the thing about the defense is that you remember last year, they were really excited about Fangio and the system, because the players at this time in training camp, Jerome Baker and Javon Holland, and they were just talking about how much more free they felt in the defense and that they could kind of roam around. But by mid-season, that stuff stopped, Lubie, as you recall. And Jalen Ramsey is wondering why he can't shadow people. So there was a disconnect eventually. And you're 100% right about that. So maybe Anthony Weaver seems like he's going to connect with the players better. And look, that was the number 10 defense in the league last year. So Fangio knew what he was doing, but he's such an old school coach. He didn't communicate with the players. He didn't accept their input. So they didn't like him. He probably, if they liked him, he might have been able to get more out of that defense, especially situationally, like you're talking about. As far as Tua, he is more of a leader. He is more assertive. You can see this, like, it's tangible. You can see it. But again, we've got to see what you do in the big situations, on the road, and these situations that have been giving you problems. I think the cold weather thing is overblown. I think it's more the opponent and being on the road as opposed to the temperature. But whatever, you got to come through in cold weather games on the road. And so, I like the attitude of what the Dolphins are saying, and I've always liked this team. It's one of my favorite locker rooms in 25 years of covering pro sports. I really, really, really like this team, but they've got to win. You got to show me some playoff wins.
Yeah.
Boy, you're a hard audience, Chris Perkins.
I've been covering him a long time.
They could have dug up Bill Arnsparger. He would have been more relatable than Fangio was. Did you do it last year, Chris? Did you write the column? Seemed to be pretty common. I don't assume that you would follow the trend of everybody else, but the general assumption was that the biggest acquisition of the offseason prior to last year was Fangio. That it didn't matter what players they brought in. They could have brought in Lawrence Taylor in his prime, and it was still like, oh, wow, we got Fangio. That was really something. And then, like you said, by midseason, everybody had checked out. it was done.
I did write that, and I still think that was correct because look at what Vic Fangio did. Now the players didn't like it, and that's the whole other topic of what Dave Hyde wrote about Camp Mike, and this is the softest camp ever, and he doesn't push the players in that way. It's a very player friendly. We're going to take your input. But Vic Fangio, number 10 defense, and again, remember, they didn't have Jalen Ramsey for the first 7 games. Yep. And like Lubie said, the last few games, you don't have Chubb, you don't have Phillips, you don't have Van Ginkel, you don't have Jerome Baker, you don't have Javon Holland all the time. So to finish number 10 while absorbing that 56-point beating at Baltimore, the 48-point beatdown in Buffalo, Fangio knew what he was doing. Again, the players didn't like him, but you finished number 10, missing all that personnel. I'm thinking you know something about football.
Yep. Couldn't wait to get the hell out of here, man. I mean, that was great.
No.
And not every relationship works out, even when it potentially is favorable or, the tangible results are okay, it was better than it was prior to this guy's arrival here. All right, so that's the scoop. I mean, Training Camp Chronicles. Well done, Chris Perkins, on a day where there's nothing happening. We saw Tua go 5 for 5. I mean, you had to be happy about that if you were a Dolphin fan. Yeah, it does appear that there might be a slight drop-off in quality of quarterback play past Tua.
Oh, God.
As you look at 2 dreadful performances.
Oh, yeah. Are they doing anything about that?
Yeah.
I know you have to go, Perk, but I'm sorry. Boy, even by preseason standards, that was holy crap.
Okay. No,
Tannehill? Are you on the Tannehill bandwagon?
Oh, hey, please. I think this is this is kind of like the offensive line thing. This is such an overblown fake boogeyman. This is my column today. That, like I wrote last week, you've got 10 other things to worry about aside from backup quarterback and offensive line. And this backup quarterback thing, look, here's the reality of it. When the backup quarterback comes into play, into the game, right? It's up to everybody else to up their role, right? Tyreek has got to do more. Waddle's got to do more. Chubb, Phillips, really? You're gonna think Mike White or Skylar Thompson is gonna lead you to 3 straight victories? Like, let's be realistic here. No, everybody else has to do more. Like, it's ridiculous that you're. And in the meantime, Tua hasn't even won a playoff game, and nobody says anything. It's outrage that the backup quarterback isn't good enough. Your starter's not good enough. Like, I just don't understand this. The backup quarterback, like, can't the defense win a game? Like, come on, like that. Mike White and Tyler, to me, a backup quarterback in the NFL, I look for him over a 4-week stretch. Get me to 2-2. Just don't lose the game. Now, if he has to play more than that, he's going to get exposed. When you're going to go 2-3 or 2-4 because he's a backup for a reason. But just don't lose me the game, Skylar Thompson or Mike White. I'm not expecting you to come in and be a Tua clone and make all those sharp, accurate passes. The offense is not going to run the same.
I love your enthusiasm for what's going on out there, Chris. A lot of guys are beaten down now. They're crying and whining. Oh, I got to go to training camp. Man, this really sucks. Wish the preseason was over. No, just the opposite here, right? Which is why we love having you on the show. This enthusiasm, no doubt, will surface in your in your articles and columns in the Sun Sentinel, and the podcast you're doing sounds good. I mean, people love this stuff. They can't get enough Miami Dolphins. So when is that on? The deep dive, Dolphins deep dive.
Dolphins deep dive with Perk. It's usually during the season. It's going to be Tuesday at noon, but during training camp, because the schedule is kind of random. They're playing games on Friday and Saturday. The podcast kind of moves around. I'll always advertise it on Twitter, on social media, X, I guess. You're right. You got to call it X now, I guess. But it's out there. It's out there.
Furonis is involved. Who else did you say?
Furonis and Dave Hyde.
Hyde. Oh my God.
Yeah, we got everybody. We got all the big. We're going to try to get Ira up there.
This isn't some low-level, interns that are getting their shot. This is like the top of the line guys at the Sun Sentinel Sports Department. Unbelievable. All right, very good. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Always love being on with you guys. Thanks.
Talk soon.
All right, Chris Perkins, ladies and gentlemen. Well, and that was weird. I mean, he's wildly enthusiastic in some ways about the Miami Dolphins and the way things are going so far. And look, we wouldn't have a clue, right? I mean, he's out there every day. Does that have some value, Lubie, in trying to figure out what's happening?
So he actually didn't say what I thought he said. He thinks they have the talent, like I said. He thinks they should win 10 games and could win upwards of 12 games. He just is in the mode. Is where we were with the Panthers. Look, you've gotten to this point so many times. Let's see you get farther. Now they went to the Stanley Cup final, so that shut us up. Well, the Dolphins haven't. The Dolphins haven't won a playoff game in 20 years. Like, win a freaking playoff game, and then we'll start talking Super Bowls. And I think that's sort of right at this point.
I saw Stephen Ross being interviewed. I mean, obviously it was a very gratuitous interview. He came on during the broadcast with Goldie and Kim Bokamper. And I have to say, I was impressed with this guy. People remember, they sort of, thought he was a bit of a clown in the beginning. People were very anti-Stephen Ross. They didn't like this whole celebrity bullshit. And he's talking about, hey, well, what are you going to do? Can you prove that you can win on the field? But it seems to me, if you were looking for an owner in sports, the guy, sort of stays out of stuff. He's not overly intrusive. Very proud of what it is that the organization is doing. Has expanded the horizons of what goes on at the stadium by, brought the tennis tournament in and this Formula One bullshit. But nonetheless, a lot of people get off on it. Okay, so that was big. So it went beyond anything that you could have imagined when Joe Robbie was saying, hey, we're going to play soccer here also. And he still has that going on. He's put his money up to take care of players.
He spends with the best of them. 100%.
Yeah. So what's not to like about the guy? So what if he had that thing for Tim Tebow? I forgive him that, don't you? You would rather have a guy like that than some guy that just represents the organization and makes you think, geez, it's impossible to root for these guys. Kind of like the Carolina Panthers, because the owner is such a fucking asshole. But no, just the I don't know. Look, let's face it. It was meant to be a highly flattering interview, but I don't know. What issues do you have to hold this guy accountable for?
His off the field interests are my issue with him. As he speaks, when he first got here, he spoke about equality and this and that. And the person that he gives lots and lots of money to is the person who literally dreams of segregation. So
who, Donald Q?
Yeah, so that's my problem with him as an owner. I when people would slam him, I was like, look, he stays out of the way. Like, he actually does what you want from an owner. The problem is he trusts people who are morons. Like,
that could be, yes.
He was too loyal. That was my only issue. Was like, he's not loyal to the rest of the world in his interests, I'm sure. But in this world, he's too loyal with Sperano, God rest his soul, and with Tannenbaum, and Tannenbaum, Philbin, and like everyone. He gave the fucking Carl. What the hell's his name? The guy that was the great guy with the Chiefs, but was an old fart. When
Carl Peterson.
He just
he was old school, huh? I don't know what he was looking at. That guy.
People who are out of their depth, and he trusts them for too long.
Yeah.
But he's always been willing to spend, and he always leaves it alone. He doesn't get involved. He's not Jerry Jones.
No, he seems content to let other people run the ball club, and he wants to believe that what they're telling him is true, I guess.
100%.
Remember when they were losing all those games, and they had Flores, and it was really a disaster, and Marino would be in there in the suite, and they would cut to a shot of after a particularly horrendous play went against the Miami Dolphins, and you would see them all telling Stephen Ross some bullshit. Like, no, don't worry, Steve. That's going to happen. As they turned him around and say, hey, look what they just brought in. Truffle encrusted sweet potato pie there. Like, oh, okay, great. All right, Lubie. We'll see you later on today, right? Ice Cream City there. Where is this place? What is it called?
Handmade ice cream in Boca and Delray.
What is it? Lily's?
Lily's in Delray Beach.
Oh, Delray Beach. Wow. That's
don't worry about
bit
it.
of a schlep.
Yeah, you're today and tomorrow are hectic lunchbox days, but Wednesday we are at Luke's, which I know is
Luke's is great.
One of your favorite destinations on the tour. So.
Oh, really? So I can skip this one?
You're good today and tomorrow.
Yeah. We're heading tomorrow.
Arvina at 4. So it's like the one in Boca. So that's all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Lily's and Delray. So.
Okay. All right. Sounds good, man.
Enjoy your afternoons. And then we'll be back at Luke's, a guy who's a big Dolphins fan, who's actually the opposite of Perk or Pat Utter. He's actually very positive. Actually, Luke is very...
wouldn't there be more reason to be positive? That's what's sort of mystifying to me.
People are just beaten down. Look, the fact that I'm so positive is weird to me, but I'm not Mark Lawrence. I'm not a trend guy. I'm not blaming them for the last 20 years. I'm looking at the roster at hand and with a lot of naivete, because the last 2 years we've had this staff and it's fallen apart at the end. But
I just think the complexion of the AFC East has changed. And with the defections that Buffalo incurred, and they'll probably go on and win 15 games now and, line it up. But it seems to me that they've been depleted a little bit, and they were suspect to begin with. The one thing you would say with this regard to winning big games is that Buffalo at least has shown that they can win some of those.
Yes.
And especially against the Miami Dolphins when at home. So, that's another stepping stone that the Phins would have to get by. But, with the decrepit nature of the New England Patriots, who people suspect won't even win 4 games, and the Jets, being highly suspect, are you really counting on the Jets being a good team this year? There are people that believe that because Rodgers returned, all of a sudden it's Lubie Magic Wand time, and all of the garbage that went on last year goes right out the window. Now there could be some truth to that, no? Where... Okay, is Rodgers a step up from what they've gone with in Zach Wilson and some of the others?
100%. No one's fighting that. It's will he be on the field? That's really what it is at this point. The dude will turn 40 if he's not 40 already, coming off of as an egregious an injury as you can overcome. Like the two combined would make me be concerned.
The torn Achilles on a 40-year-old quarterback. Although, it appears, from all accounts that this is completely and has been overcome. This injury, and that he's fine. So
he's fine now.
And it's not like he was going to take off and scramble a lot. He did some running in his career, but I would imagine that if you looked over the last several years, he's probably tempered that down to close to nothing. Yeah.
Sure.
So, all right. Well, we'll see, Lubie. It was interesting. I don't know what to make of it. You're more optimistic than most.
Yeah, look, they would be my favorite.
I'm with you a little bit, but I'm not overwhelmingly. I don't see them being like cinches to win the Super Bowl or anything, and it certainly wouldn't be surprising if they eked into the playoffs again and lost in the first round.
Yeah, no, look, what my heart tells me is they should be the favorite to win the AFC. If they win the AFC, that would mean they probably have 11 or 12 wins. So that would probably mean they're a 1, especially in a very competitive AFC. That means they're probably a 1 or a 2 seed.
Yeah.
If they're a 1 or a 2 seed, they're at home. When they're at home, it'll still be warm here compared to the rest of the country. So that should be an advantage.
Sure.
And I could see them getting to an AFC championship. That's my heart. My head looks at, and as much as Perk doesn't want to focus on it, I do focus on it.
Perk was fired up, though. He really was.
Well, he doesn't want to pay attention to the injuries. A lot of those losses were near the end of the year versus the good teams, and were with injuries. So their offensive line has been hampered the last 2 years. Their defensive line has been hampered the last 2 years. If that's the case again this year, they will have an early exit. And so I can't automatically go against it because you have Chubb, who's always hurt. You have Phillips, who's always hurt. And you have Armstead, who's always hurt. Those 3 guys are the anchors of both lines, and all 3 of them are always hurt their entire career. So you can't expect the other way. So my head says, no, they'll probably win 10 games, get to the first round, maybe win a first round game, but then lose. And for what this roster is, that would be a success 5 years ago. That's not a success for this team.
I'll let that be the last word.
There you go.
Excellent job, Lubie. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow with the Defo show. And, of course, you've got Mike Mayo's Lunchbox on the channel here and on Let's Eat South Florida. 1 o'clock today, and Lubie will be shoveling ice cream in his face, which is great, man. What would it be? I mean, Jan's was the place back in the day. Now, and this place just won like the best ice cream
They
joint.
won, and at least they're mom and pop, and they supposedly have
nice
ice cream. So,
all right. Well,
Cross
have a scoop in my honor here today, and I'll take the opportunity to do something else. It'll be great. I don't need the ice cream anyway, so that's good. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow at right around 8 o'clock. We should be getting going at our usual time,
Yeah,
so look for us then. And thanks for joining us as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:04.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.